He was just a janitor, or so they thought. In a silent saloon after midnight, a broken man heard a sound that brought him back to life. She was blind, she was alone, and music was the only way she could see the world. They told him to know his place, but kindness doesn't have a title. This is a Western story about loss, courage, and how one small act of goodness changed an entire town. Watch till the end, because the quietest moments often carry the greatest miracles. Let us know where you're watching from, and if these Western tales bring you even a moment of peace, saddle up and subscribe. It really does help us keep these stories alive.
The dust settled thick and silent over the rough-hewn floor of the Grand Union Saloon. It was well past midnight. The only light came from a single oil lamp on the bar, casting long, wavering shadows across the empty tables. Sam, a man whose hands were permanently stained with the Wyoming grit, was mopping the last of the spilled whiskey and sawdust. At 35, his face was a roadmap of hardship, his eyes holding a quiet, deep sadness only the barren land and great loss can instill. He was the janitor here, a shadow in a place of boisterous life. Then he heard it, a sound that had no place in the saloon's usual clamor, the hesitant, yet persistent, pluck of a single out-of-tune parlor piano in the back room. Sam moved toward the sound, his movements slow and deliberate, as if waking from a long sleep. The back room, reserved for private gatherings, held a worn, upright piano, a relic shipped west at enormous cost. Inside, a little girl sat on the bench, her feet not touching the floor. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her small fingers struggled against the heavy keys, searching for a melody that kept escaping her grasp. Her eyes, wide and unfocused, gave away her secret. She was blind. Sam stopped in the doorway, the scent of pine cleaner and memory suddenly warring in his chest. "May I join you, little one?" His voice was a low, rusty rumble. She tilted her head, listening not to the sound, but to the feeling in his voice. A small, trusting smile touched her lips. "Yes, please." He sat on the bench beside her, his hands, rough and calloused from years of ranch work and cleaning, looked impossibly large next to hers. They began to play together. Outside the half-open door, a woman stood frozen. Jane Prescott, the owner of the Grand Union, and the most formidable force in 3 counties. Her tailored black suit was out of place in the frontier town, a testament to her fierce will. She watched the incongruous pair, a janitor and a blind child, playing a broken tune, and tears silently tracked paths through the fine layer of dust on her cheeks. Sam was not meant to be a janitor. 10 years ago, he was Samuel Hayes, a skilled fiddler and pianist, the heart of every barn dance and community gathering. He played with a joy that was infectious, all for the benefit of his wife, Eliza. She would be waiting by the fire, her laughter the only applause he ever truly needed. "You know why most folks out here give up on their dreams, Sam?" Eliza used to ask. "No, it ain't the prairie wind that breaks them." Then came the blizzard, sudden and merciless. The wagon flipped, and in one night the music stopped. Eliza did not survive. Sam sold his beloved fiddle. The piano became a wound too deep to touch. He took the janitor job at the Grand Union, a place where the noise and the shadows allowed him to disappear. Every dollar went to a small plot of land for his future, a place he hadn't yet been able to start. But tonight, the sound of the girl's searching fingers had pulled him back from the dead. He watched her now. Her determination was a beacon. She was trying to play the old hymn, Amazing Grace, but the notes were disjointed, like scattered stones. "You are close," Sam murmured, his breath catching. But music ain't just hitting the keys right, it's about listening to the quiet space between the notes. The girl turned her head toward him, her sightless eyes earnest. "Who are you, mister?" "Just a man who used to make a little noise," Sam replied. "What's your name, little one?" "Nora." A beautiful name for a beautiful heart. Do you come here often, Nora? My mama owns this place, she whispered. She's always working. So I wait and I play. Sam noticed a small silver locket around her neck, tarnished with age. Courage, waits in the silence, was etched onto it. That's a special locket, he said. My PA gave it to me. Nora touched it gently. He went away with the army and never came back. Sam understood. He understood the silence that screams louder than any song. Would you like me to show you a thing or two? He asked. Nora's face broke into a radiant smile. Oh yes, please. Sam placed his hands on the keys. He played the hymn, but this time, it was complete. The notes flowed like the melting snow after a long winter. Smooth, effortless, and alive. Nora leaned in, drinking in the sound. It sounds like the river, just before the spring thaw, she breathed. Exactly, Sam said, his own heart stirring. Music ain't just sound, it's the feeling of that cold river turning warm. It's everything you feel but can't touch. Can you teach me, Uncle Sam? She asked, the title falling from her lips like a natural thing. Sam looked down at his rough, working man's clothes, then at the elegant piano. He didn't belong here, but then he saw her smile, the desperate hope in her face. Yes, he said, the word of vow. I can teach you. From that night forward, a secret ritual began. Sam finished his sweeping and scrubbing around 11. The Grand Union finally quieted. He would walk to the back room, and Nora would be waiting. Hello, Uncle Sam, she'd call out, recognizing the familiar shuffle of his worn boots. Hello, little star, he'd reply. Tonight they worked on arpeggios, then a simple folk tune. Nora stumbled on a tricky run. I can't get it right. She frowned, frustration tightening her small shoulders. Don't chase perfection, Sam gently advised. Chase the meaning. What does this tune make you feel? Nora thought hard. It feels like being lost in the mountains, but knowing the trail always leads home. Then play it that way. Let your heart lead, Nora. Your fingers will follow. She tried again. The notes were suddenly softer, imbued with a delicate, fragile hope. Better, Sam smiled. Much better. She hugged him then, a quick, fierce hug. Sam hadn't felt the simple warmth of human connection in years. Thank you for being my friend, she whispered against his sleeve. Always, he whispered back, feeling a wound he thought had scarred over begin to heal. But secrets rarely thrive in a place like the Grand Union. One night, the head barman, a cynical man named Hank, walked through the back earlier than usual. He heard the piano. He opened the door. What in the blazes is going on here? Hank demanded. Sam, you're on the clock. And what's the boss's girl doing in here with the janitor after hours? I was helping her practice, Sam explained, standing up quickly. Helping her. You're paid to muck out the stables, not tinkle the ivories. You have no business touching that piano, and certainly not the boss's daughter. Please, Nora cried out, clutching Sam's coat. He's my teacher. He didn't do anything wrong. I'm reporting this to Jane, Hank sneered, walking away. Rules are rules, and you broke 'em all, Sam. The next morning, Sam was called into Jane Prescott's office, a room of dark, polished wood, where her stern presence was a cold, constant draft. You were caught in the back room last night, Jane said, her voice low and cutting. With Nora, after hours. Do you understand how serious this is, Sam? I was teaching her piano, ma'am, Sam explained, gripping the brim of his hat. She asked me to. It was just music. You are paid to clean, Mr. Hayes, not to befriend tenants, especially not children. My daughter is my concern, not yours. But she was alone. She needed someone. That is not your place. Jane's voice rose, edged with an exhaustion Sam recognized as his own. This is your final warning. If I catch you in that room again, you are dismissed. Do you understand? He needed this job. His own daughter was waiting for him back east. Yes, ma'am, he said, swallowing his pride. People like you, Jane finished, her eyes fixed on his worn boots, need to know their station. Sam said nothing. He walked out, his shoulders slumped. That evening, Sam went straight to the bunkhouse, but the next night, he heard the faint, clumsy notes of the piano again. He stopped outside the door. He knew he should walk away. He had to protect his job. But then he heard a small, heartbroken voice. Uncle Sam, are you there? His heart broke. He opened the door. Nora sat at the piano, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I thought you left me, she choked out. Just like Papa. Sam knelt beside her. I will never abandon you, Nora. Never. But the boss lady said you can't come back. Let me worry about that, Sam whispered. Right now, let's play. Just for a moment. They played together, one last desperate tune. But they were not alone. Hank stood outside with two others, witnesses he'd called. Caught you again, Hayes, Hank crowed, stepping inside. I told you to stay away. You're done. Pack your things. Sam stood. He knew the fight was lost. All right, he said quietly. But Nora grabbed his hand. She held it tight, her small, determined grip a shock. Please, don't take him away, she cried, turning her blind face towards the sound of Hank's voice. He's the only one who sees me. Hank hesitated, but Jane's voice cut through the air, icy and sharp. Mr. Hayes, I am told you have trespassed. She had just stepped into the hallway. Is this true, Hank? She asked, her eyes fixed on the janitor. Yes, Miss Prescott. He violated company policy. No authorization to interact with. With my daughter? Jane finished for him. Hank's face paled. I was protecting the rules, Miss Prescott. You dismissed the man who was teaching my daughter piano. Jane's voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. The man who made her smile for the first time since I brought her here. And you did not see fit to inform me? I didn't know she was your daughter. That, Jane said, walking closer, makes it worse. You judged him by his job, not his character. Jane turned to Sam. Why did you come back, Mr. Hayes? You knew the cost. Sam looked at Nora, then back at Jane. Because she needed me, ma'am, he said, his voice steady. And I don't abandon the people I care about. The room fell silent. Nora walked forward. She reached for her mother's skirt, then for Sam's hand. Mama, Nora said softly, Uncle Sam taught me how to see your face with music. He said every person has a sound, and yours sounds like the mountain wind, strong and lonely, and sometimes like thunder, just before the rain. Jane's iron composure broke. Tears flooded her eyes. She looked at Sam, truly seeing the kindness etched around his own sorrowful eyes. You did this? She asked, her voice cracking. You taught her all of this? I only showed her what was already inside her, ma'am, Sam said simply. She did the rest. Jane wiped her eyes. She made her decision. Don't leave, Mr. Hayes. Not yet. She turned to Hank. Leave us, and report to the bookkeeper's office, first thing tomorrow morning. Hank, utterly defeated, walked away. Jane knelt in front of Nora. She held her daughter's face in her hands. I am sorry, sweetheart. I have been so focused on building this life that I forgot what a life is for. Nora hugged her mother fiercely. It's all right, Mama. You're here now. Jane stood. She looked at Sam. Thank you, she said, her voice sincere, for seeing her when I couldn't. The next morning, Jane called a gathering. The saloon was packed with every ranch hand, store owner, and worker in her employ. Sam, cleaned up, but still wearing his worn vest, stood off to the side. I want to tell you a story, Jane announced, her voice ringing out. 3 nights ago, a man was fired from this establishment. His name is Sam Hayes. He was working as a janitor. He was fired for being caught in the back room, teaching a little blind girl how to play the piano. A collective murmur went through the crowd. That little girl is my daughter. The Grand Union went utterly silent. He did it for no pay, no praise. He did it because she was alone, and he chose to be decent. This town, this saloon, has forgotten something important. Value is not determined by the dirt on your hands, or the title you hold. She gestured for Sam to join her. He walked to her side, uncomfortable under the weight of so many eyes. Sam Hayes risked his only means of survival to help my daughter, Jane declared. And for that, we owe him more than an apology. Effective immediately, Mr. Samuel Hayes is no longer the janitor of the Grand Union. The crowd stared. He will be appointed as the music director for the Grand Union Social Hall. He will lead our new initiative, a free music program for the children of this county. This hall will no longer be for private meetings. It will be for music. The room erupted. Cheers, whistles, and applause crashed over Sam. He was stunned. I don't understand, Sam stammered, looking at Jane. You are exactly what this town needs, Jane stated. What my daughter needs. Jane looked over the crowd until she found Hank. Mr. Hank, she called out, her voice hard. You judged a man by his clothes. You dismissed him without asking the simplest question. Your prejudice has no place in this establishment. You are hereby reassigned to stable duty, where perhaps you will learn what it means to be judged by your work instead of your title. Hank's face was a mask of shock and fury, but he slunk away. Jane turned back to Sam. Do you accept, Mr. Hayes? Sam looked at the cheering faces, then down at his hands. The same hands that scrubbed floors and now would hold a new purpose. Yes, ma'am, he said, his voice stronger than it had been in a decade. I accept. Nora was led to the platform. She found Sam's hand. She reached into her dress and pulled out the locket, the one that read, Courage waits in the silence. This is for you, Uncle Sam, she whispered as she opened it. Because you taught me what it means. You were waiting in the silence, here with your heart. Sam knelt as Nora pressed the locket into his palm. 1 year later, the new Grand Union Social Hall was alight with lamps and packed to the rafters. On the stage, a dozen children sat with borrowed instruments. Nora sat at a beautifully restored, shiny black piano. She was 8 now, her fingers resting confidently on the keys. Around her neck, she wore a simple velvet ribbon. Sam stood at the podium. He wore a crisp new suit, but his kind eyes were the same. He raised his baton. The children began to play. It was an original composition, written by Sam, a soaring, bittersweet melody inspired by Nora. He called it The Things We Cannot See. Nora played the lead, her fingers dancing. She did not need to see the notes. She felt them, every single one. In the front row, Jane Prescott sat. She was still a formidable woman, but now she was smiling, truly smiling. She watched her daughter, not the blind child who needed protection, but the artist who brought light to the barren land. After the final lingering note faded, the audience erupted in thunderous applause. A reporter from the territorial newspaper approached Sam after the curtain call. Mr. Hayes, what inspired you to bring music back to this town? Sam glanced at Nora, then at Jane. I was once a man who thought he had lost his song, he said, looking down at the silver locket tucked into his vest pocket. But then I met someone who reminded me that music ain't about the notes on the page. It's about what we feel, what we share, and what we give. He looked at the crowd, the townsfolk who had judged him, then welcomed him. My message to anyone who feels lost out here, Sam said, his voice carrying conviction. The most important moments in life happen when there's no money, no title, no one watching. When you simply choose to be kind because someone needs you to be their light. He looked down at the locket. The courage waits in the silence, he said. Hear with your heart. The rest will follow.
If you really like our Western stories and want us to continue writing, consider subscribing. It really helps us more than you think.